Asian women like standing up for themselves, or like having like a personality and not just being like, oh, like submissive or like quiet.
I don't feel like when I was younger I saw any examples of Asian Americans in my life, or Asian Americans that had to do with American history.
Because of how, I would say, successful a lot of Asian Americans are, I think people like under like they're like the stuff that they've gone through in the past has been kind of like downplayed, because it's like, oh, like they're fine now, like why do we care? But there's like a lot that I think Asian Americans have gone through in the past that just doesn't get talked about as much.
There's a lot of low-income Asian Americans that are undocumented or maybe came through this country as refugees that are often missed by popular like mainstream culture. So like the model minority like aspect, like that Asian Americans all came here and are highly educated, is not always true.
My experience is a little different, but I often think about, especially with Asian American men within movies that portray them like yearning for like a white woman, and they're being kind of awkward and sort of, which is, you know, that's one version of a story, right? But it's not the whole picture of like just being a person.
I mean, I understand like the political label of Asian American, but it's such a broad group of like so many different cultures and ethnicities that are very, very different. Yeah, that kind of story I feel like is a bit lost.
Asia's ginormous, and so maybe they see all these different cultures coming together and consider threatening? I don't know. It's not threatening for me. It's beautiful for me.
I have two grandparents who are Japanese and went through the Japanese internment camps. It felt, I don't know, I definitely felt like I understood more about myself, and I kind of just felt good to hear about like Asian Americans, just hear stories about people like me. Yeah, and I think it's always good to talk about the past.
5,000 years of culture and history that has stayed. 5,000 years of language that has developed into something that has been able to last so long. There's a strength of Asian Americans, of where they come from, the way they've immigrated here.
This is how we need to be moving together instead of like just in isolation. And we're more powerful together than we are just doing this alone.
There is this great group called ASATA, like Alliance of South Asians Taking Action, in the Bay Area, which is an example of like South Asians working together to enact change.
The Japanese community, and what we wanted to do was hold like a space for this like Palestinian speaker and encourage our members to go listen to them and to kind of support them and understand, especially with like internment camps. That was a huge thing that we talked about, because we always go, like every year we go on a pilgrimage to an internment site.
Developing a ethnic studies class, and a bunch of things happened at the same time around like some people in our like DEI program like leaving like suddenly, and also that class, like the creation of that class was postponed, and some students were upset about that, and we had like walkouts and we had meetings with the principal, and they were able to like resume the like making that class happen. I think it's actually going up next year.
You see the way people are drawn to the work because of a lack of something in the world, the lack of a space. And so if you want that, you have to create it for yourself.
Sometimes the stories I see about Asian Americans in the media right now are like still surrounding Asian Americans like basically assimilating to whiteness, like maybe like you see one Asian American character with like a white romantic lead. So like again, just being adjacent to whiteness.
Having creators like put Asian characters or other characters like in like situations that other characters would also be in, like maybe like a white character can go to space, like I don't know, like it doesn't have to be about race. It could also just be portraying like Asian people as just regular people, like doing things that other characters would do. Like I don't know, a story about like an Asian person going to space, but the story doesn't have to be centered around how, like it doesn't have to be centered around their identity. It could just be portraying people as a character.
I would say create what you're going to create and don't worry about explaining yourselves. That's what I would say, because the more we try to explain ourselves, the more the message or the story or whatever you're creating gets watered down. It's not the intention you wanted in the first place. So whatever you're creating, I would say just create the way you want to create it for the people that you want to create it for. Because the second you're trying to explain it to somebody, it's not in the gaze of you or your people anymore. It's in the gaze of somebody else.
With having Asian American artists come up and like tell their stories is how they've like started to counter those narratives. So like that art and representation is amazing. And then I think it's just a nature of like over time and like across a few generations, like more and more people will have the freedom to choose like the paths that they want and like counter those narratives.